He took 6 teams to a bowl game, won 5 bowl games with 5 different teams, and had 4 teams ranked in the final top 20 poll. The only coach in the history of college football to do so. "26 seasons as a collegiate head coach earned him a bulletproof reputation for turning pretenders into contenders. But it was at Notre Dame that he really proved his mettle. In just 2 years, he put the Fighting Irish back into a major postseason bowl game for the first time in 7 seasons, and chalked up a record 23-game winning streak, the longest in the college's history. His career record of 216, 106, and 7 places him 6th in victories among active coaches and 9th in winning percentages. His 10 career postseason bowl victories place him 3rd among active coaches and tied for 4th on the all-time list. Tough, uncompromising, with a steely will to win, he is revered by his players and feared by the opposition. And he's here today to share with us lessons from a winning strategy that has made him one of the most successful college coaches of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand, please, for Mr. Lou Holtz.
Thank you very much. You know, when I left listen to that video, when I left the University of Notre Dame, I never thought I'd coach again because, according to my mother, when you left Notre Dame, you went directly to heaven, you sat by the Pope. You don't coach anymore. Then I went and I worked for television. I worked for CBS, and that's not complicated. You just talk to you, think of something to say. And then I went to live in a town where the average age is deceased. Now, when you get up in the morning, you got problems, you got difficulties, you got obstacles, get down on your knees and thank God, because that's what life's all about, and that's what I missed. I never thought I would coach again when I left the University of Notre Dame, but life is about challenges. Let me tell you who Lou Holtz is not. I'm not a singer, I'm not a dancer, I'm not an entertainer, I'm not an intellect. I finished the lower half of my high school class, and as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for people like me, there could have been no upper half of the class. And I wasn't a very good athlete. As a matter of fact, every story I tell you is true. When Tim Brown won the Heisman, they interviewed me just before he won, and he said, "Did you ever dream about winning the Heisman?" I said, "All the time." I wanted to win the Heisman for 3 reasons, Jim Nance. I've been the first player from Kent State in Ohio to ever win it. I've been the first defensive player to ever win it, and I've been the first 3rd-teamer to ever win it. And the interview ended very abruptly. So, you know, understand the person here today is a very simple individual. But what we really share in common is about challenges, because that's what life's all about. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of things in this world I don't understand. I don't understand how you take a black cow, eat green grass, and produce white milk and yellow cheese. I don't understand how hydrogen and oxygen, both odorless, colorless, and tasteless, combine it with black, tasteless carbon and produce white, pure sugar. I never understood why a kamikaze pilot wore a helmet. And I don't know how some people with so much and so many opportunities achieve so little, and other people with so many obstacles and difficulties find a way to be successful. Now, I'm not going to preach to you, lecture to you, but we have a challenge this year. The University of South Carolina, we're in the Southeast Conference. We play Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, LSU, etc. People say, "How do you sleep when you look at that schedule?" I said, "Like a baby. Wake up every 2 hours and cry." I think, "Oh, good Lord, no." But I want to share some things that are important to us if we're going to meet the challenge. The first one is the attitude I have and the attitude our team has. And attitude's a choice. I don't know of anything in this world more important than having a passion to succeed and being successful than the attitude that you choose. God gave you the power to love and to think, create, to imagine. The greatest power we have is the power to choose. And the attitude we have is by far the most important. Let me tell you what happened my first year at the University of South Carolina. My wife had her second major cancer surgery. And they gave her 10% chance to live, and I'm happy to report she's doing well. And I also want to pause here and say, if you want some great advice, listen to your spouse. Nobody knows you any better, loves you anymore, wants to see you succeed anymore. Nobody be more honest with you, and obviously they're very intelligent because they selected you. And I'll never forget that billboard sign in Ohio. It said, behind every successful person stands a very shocked mother-in-law. Boy, is that true in my case, but my wife had her second major cancer surgery. My son Skip went into a coma for a week with a rare illness. My mother died the Friday before we played Florida, man's most prized possession. I was on a school airplane for 3 days. I was going to be on it for 3 more days. We landed at Lady Island Airport. The school pilot said, Coach, will you visit the athlete? We're going to fly 11 miles to Hilton Head to get gas. And during that 11-mile flight, that plane crashed. One school pilot was killed, another one seriously injured. We lost every single football game we played that year. We won 0-11. And I had a kicker that said, I can't kick when you're watching. And I explained to him I was going to be at the games. That was part of the contract. But everything went wrong. Everybody saying you can't win there. The difficulty, he's too old. People get on you, news people get on you, and you're down there and everybody's pounding on you and nobody helps you up. People come up to me all the time and say, anybody tell you look like Lou Holtz? Now, if they say, are you Lou Holtz? I say, unfortunately, I am. But a lot of people come up and say, anybody tell you look like Lou Holtz? I said, yeah, it happens to me all the time. One guy said, kind of makes you mad, doesn't it? That's what happens when you're down and you got 2 choices. You stay down or you get up. But I tell you this, you aren't going to get up if you don't have a passion to succeed, if you're going to let other people get you down. Don't tell me about talent. Tell me about the attitude somebody has. I'm in South Carolina one week and I get a phone call from Ryan Brewer. He said, Coach, my name's Ryan Brewer and I want to play for you. I said, tell me about yourself, Ryan. He said, I'm 5'10", 185 pounds. I'm a running back. I'm from Troy, Ohio. I'm an A student and I made All-State. I said, that's great, Ryan. He said, you're going to recruit me? I said, yeah. He said, are you going to offer me a scholarship? I said, Ryan Brewer, if what you said is true, yes. Because I knew we'd have trouble signing athletes. He said, Coach, everything I told you is true and I accept the scholarship. I said, oh, wonderful. Who else offered you a scholarship? He said, nobody, but I'm glad you did. I said, didn't Ohio State recruit you? No, I think I'm too small. Michigan think I'm too slow. Hung up the phone, called one of these recruiting experts. I said, can Ryan Brewer play? He said, Coach, he couldn't play a dead Indian in a Western movie. He didn't have a scholarship offer, not in the Mid-American Conference. Now, when athletes arrive on campus, first thing we do is time them in the 40. Like when Rocket Ismail came to Notre Dame. He was so fast. He could turn out the light and get in bed before it got dark. Unbelievable quickness. The only player I've ever seen that played tennis by himself. And Rocket Ismail is the type of guy who could run a punt back 75 yards and get called for roughing the punter on the same play. I mean, he just had great. Well, Ryan Brewer was just the opposite. I watched Ryan Brewer run, and I was willing to bet anybody in this world. If Ryan Brewer got in a race with a pregnant mother, he would finish third. He couldn't run. He was slow. He wasn't very big. But 2 years later, we played Ohio State on January 1 in the bowl game. That young man that nobody wanted rushed for over 100 yards, caught passes for over 100 yards, scored 3 touchdowns, was MVP. The following year, we beat Ohio State again in a bowl game. He averaged 11 yards a carry. So, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize how important the attitude is. And it's my attitude. Just like with you, ladies and gentlemen, the attitude doesn't start at the bottom and work its way up. It starts with you. And you're going to have problems, you're going to have difficulty, you have obstacles, but being a leader is having a passion to succeed and a plan. See, Father Hesburgh announced to the world that Lou Holtz was head football coach. He gave me that title. Nobody could take it away. What he could not do was announce I was a leader. People underneath determine who the leader is. And the leader is a person that has a passion for what they believe. Which brings me to the second point. You have to have a passion to win. I don't ask our athletes how many want to win. The band's playing, the crowd's cheering, TV lights. Everybody wants to win in. Question I ask, can you live with losing? Can you live with failure? And to me, a passion win means you're going to do three things. Number one, you make sacrifice. I love to be around successful people like you because I know you've made sacrifice. There's no way in this world to win without sacrifice. And part of sacrifice is fundamentals. I only have 30 minutes. I can't talk an awful lot about each faith, but I cannot emphasize the importance of being able to block and tackle, to being able to execute the basic fundamentals. But you have to make sacrifice. Losers look on it as punishment. You got to lift weights. Well, that's punishment unless you want to win the championship, unless you have a passion to do so. And the other thing, to me, you get rid of all the excuses why you can't. When I went to the University of Notre Dame, Miami beating us 58-6 the game before I got there the preceding year. And I went there and I said to the athletes, we aren't going to win because I'm here. We'll win the minute you get rid of all the excuses why you can't win. Our first game we played the University of Michigan. They had a great football team. Jim Harbaugh's their quarterback. We pushed them all over the field. We had 500 yards. They had 300. And we could beat 24-23. I walked in the locker room. You know what happened? Everybody's blaming everybody else. Instead of saying we need to do this, let's band together. They're pointing the finger. First thing they said was Coach Holtz made some bad calls. Then they said the official made some bad calls. Now that's true. The official did make some bad calls. And then this guy fumbled, and Steve Berline threw an interception, and John Carney, one of the best kickers in the NFL, missed a little field goal on the last play of the game. But they're blaming each other, not looking for solutions. In our last game of the year, we played Southern Cal out in Los Angeles. Rodney Peets, our quarterback. And we're getting beat 30-20. Never forget it. 11 minutes to go in the game. They have 4th and 5. They're going to punt the ball. We put on a punt rush. We don't block the punt, but we roughed the punter. Now, the young man who roughed the punter was my wife's son. After the game, the newsman said, well, what'd you think when your son roughed the punter? I said, I now understand why certain species of animals devour their young, but they got a first down. They went at 37-20, 9 minutes to go, and for the first time since I've been at Notre Dame, when we huddled up, our players had a different attitude. They were embarrassed about everything. They said, enough's enough. They said, we're going to run this kickoff back. You get your guy, I'll get mine. They made a commitment. They did. Then defense went on and said, we're going to stop them. They did. And first time since I've been in Notre Dame, when the defense came off the field and the offense came on, they encouraged each other. And in 9 minutes, we've scored 18 points. Won the game 38-37 from that time on. Won over 80% of our football games. Went to 9 straight January 1 bowls, the sugar, the cotton, the orange, of the fiesta. Nobody's done it before or since. Not because of me, but you start getting rid of the excuses. When I was at Arkansas, we were down and play Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. They're #1 in the country. I had to suspend 3 athletes, scored 78% of our touchdowns. Nobody gave us a chance to win. And our team had a negative attitude because of all the problems and obstacles. We were a big underdog. Nobody felt we could win the game. Nobody. And I had a team meeting 3 days before the game, and they came in, they were negative. I said, I know all the reasons why we can't win. I read them in the paper every day. I read about the great players from Oklahoma that are going to play. I read about the great players from Arkansas that aren't going to play. I've never heard one positive reason why we can win. I've never read anything about anybody in this room. So don't tell me why we can't win. I want to know why we can. The first thing that happened was a young man got up and said, Coach, we have the #1 defense in the country, which we did. Monty Kiffin from Tampa Bay was my defense coordinator. He said, we have #1 defense in the country, Coach, so we aren't going to get beat near as bad as everybody thinks. Well, really wasn't what I wanted, but it was a step in the right direction. And then they started pointing out, Coach, we have the best punter and the best place kicker we did. We have a great offensive line. I wanted them to say they had a great coach. They never said it, but when they left the room, it was a different team because they focused on what they had rather than on what they didn't have. And we started looking for solutions rather than excuses. And we were a 24-point underdog, and 2 nights later, in the Orange Bowl national television, we beat the #1 team in the country 31-6. I've had people say to me, that team was so inspired, the way they come out of the locker room door, what'd you tell them? I told them, man, Oklahoma's mean, strong, nasty, and aggressive. Last 11 of you out of this locker room going to have to start. Boom, tore that door down. It's like in 1988, we're undefeated, and the following week we have played Miami and won 37 games in a row, and we're playing Pittsburgh. And every story I tell you is absolutely true. We're down at Pittsburgh. They score early in the fourth quarter to tie the game up. And the fans are packed, and it's at Pittsburgh, and they're screaming. I look over, and the Pittsburgh Panthers players are jumping about this high off the field, and they're so excited. I'm going, oh, my gosh, the momentum, everything was against us. And Tony Rice, our quarterback, came up and said, boy, this is a great game, isn't it, Coach? I said, Tony. He said, Coach, we'll find out if we're for real. He said, this is where you want to be. He said, you want a challenge. And we won the game by 2 touchdowns. Next week, we beat Miami 31-30 and voted the greatest game in the history of Notre Dame. It's just you have a passion and we get rid of the excuses. Point number 3, understand what you're trying to do. Ladies and gentlemen, all you're trying to do is satisfy the needs of the customer, the retailers, the distributors, and the millers. See, I'm not very smart, ladies and gentlemen, but I have common sense. People complicate life. All you're trying to do is satisfy the needs of people. All I'm trying to do is graduate and win. That's all. Every decision is how can we graduate our athletes, how can we win? Nothing else is relevant. Use common sense. 7th grade, I had a nun named Sister Mary Harriet. She didn't like me, didn't think I was very smart. We had a test. I didn't know many answers, finished earlier, started looking around out of boredom. I wasn't going to cheat. I'll never forget, she hollered in front of the whole class, Lou Holtz, don't you even think about cheating? She said, if I even suspect you of cheating, I'm taking 10% off your grade. And I got out the textbook and I said, 90 sounds good to me. So, let's keep it simple. All you're trying to do is satisfy the needs of the people. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all life is. But you have to change sometimes. You've gone through an awful lot of change recently. You'll probably go through some more. I've had to change. When I was at Notre Dame, I didn't like to throw the football. I wouldn't even have a passing gear in my car. I like to take the ball and turn and hand it to Jerome Bettis or Ricky Waters. That isn't real hard to do. Anybody can do that. But to throw the ball, you got to drop back, got to protect the passer, run the route the right way, read the coverage, throw the ball, catch it. That's hard. So I said, we ain't going to throw the football. We're going to run it. I went to South Carolina. And our quarterback got the ball, and he turned to hand the ball off, and Ricky Waters and Jerome Bettis wasn't there. And the guy that was there didn't want the ball. And we went 0-11, so we had to change. Why did we change? Not because I wanted to, but if we were going to win, we had to change our offensive philosophy. Embrace change, as long as it's enabling you to satisfy the needs of the customer. Do you realize in 1878 they invented the typewriter? Problem was, if you type too fast, the key stuck. Said, we'll never sell a typewriter with a key sticking, so he put together a committee to solve it. They came back and they said, we got it solved. They said, can you type faster? He said, no, we can't do that, but we got it solved that the keys will not stick. The guy said, how are you going to do that? He said, we're going to hide the letters on the keypad. He said, what do you mean? We'll put A up here, B down here, hide C up there, D up there. Didn't you wonder why the letters are on the keypad are so screwed up? That's so you couldn't type fast. Yeah, now why would they put Q there and R over there? You couldn't type fast. That's the way it is. Now today, no matter how fast you type, the keys won't stick. But you try to change the letters on the keypad. No, don't change that, see, because I'm used to that. See, ladies and gentlemen, embrace change. As long as the change is helping you satisfy the needs of the customers. Point number 4 out of 5. Be a dreamer. Look at me. 5'10", 152 pounds, wear glasses, speak with a lisp. Have a physique, appears like I've been afflicted with beriberi and scurvy most of my life. The only reason I can stand up here, I learned to be a dreamer. Martin Luther King made one of the 10 greatest speeches in the history of mankind. Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Winston Churchill, or 3 of the other ones, where he stood up in Washington in front of 100,000 people. He said, I have a dream. And it motivated people and inspired people to change this country for the better. People took action. I have a dream. Do you think that would have the same effect that he stood up there and said, I have a strategic plan I think's going to work? Strategic plans don't excite anybody. Dreams do. I wasn't a dreamer. I went to South Carolina many years ago as an assistant coach under Marvin Bass. My wife's 8 months pregnant with our 3rd child. We spent every cent we had in the bank for a down payment on the home. I am there 1 month. And I get up on a Monday morning and the headlines of the state paper reads, Marvin Bass resigns. I said to my wife, I wonder if he's related to my coach. An hour later, I'm unemployed. They hired Paul Dietzel. I don't know him. I don't know anybody in South Carolina. I'm out of a job. And after my wife gave birth to Kevin, who's now a lawyer, I said to him, what's the most important thing you learned in Notre Dame Law School? He said, a professor told me the most important thing as a lawyer is to remember this. If somebody's going to go to jail, make sure it's your client and not you. I said, that's good advice. But anyway, after she gave birth to Kevin, I'm a stay-at-home dad, feeling defeated. And she bought me a book where they talked about dreams. I never had any. So I got out pencil paper. The kid's taking a nap, 5 columns, things I want to do as a husband and a father. My wife and I have been married 43 years. The children graduated from college, things I want to do religiously. God's important in my life. I don't preach at a lecture, but I hope the way I live my life reflects the faith I have in God. St. Augustine said, you got to preach the gospel 24 hours a day. And when absolutely necessary, resort to using words. And things I want to accomplish financially. 4th category is things I want to do professionally. Want to coach at Notre Dame, win national championships. Last column is excitement. Jump out of an airplane, land on an aircraft carrier, go on the submarine, be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, whitewater raft Snake River. I wanted to learn how to do magic, play the greatest golf course in the world, wanted to go to the White House for dinner, wanted to see the Pope, wanted to go to Pamplona and run with the bulls with a slower person. You know. I had 107 of them. My wife come home. I said, we're going to do them all. And she said, gee, that's great. Why don't you get a job? So we made it 108. And out of those, we've done 102. Here's what I say to you, ladies and gentlemen. What changed my life was I learned to be a dreamer. Because that's where life's all about. That's where the excitement is. Now, as I said to you, when I left Notre Dame, I never thought I'd coach again. Don't make the mistake I made. Went to Notre Dame. We took a program on the bottom. We took it to the very top. As I said, for 10 straight years, we won over 80% of our games. And you reach a point where you get content. You get on top and you become the hunted. When you're trying to get there, you're the hunter. What we did not do was set higher dreams and goals and standards. We maintained it. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done. When I left the University of Notre Dame, I thought I was tired of coaching. I wasn't tired of coaching. I found out later. I was tired of maintaining. There's a rule of life, ladies and gentlemen, said you're either growing or you're dying. A tree's either growing or it's dying. Grass is growing or it's dying. A person's either growing or it's dying. A marriage is growing or it's dying. A team's growing or it's dying. And a business is either growing or it's dying. Doesn't have a thing to do with age. But it has everything to do whether you have any dreams. When you try to maintain something, ladies and gentlemen, you never have reason to celebrate. You never come up with any unique ideas about how to do things. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen. When I went to the University of South Carolina, one of the reasons I went there because they had won 1 bowl game in the 108-year history of the school. Now, we've won 2, but I still have so many dreams because we aren't where we want to be. We aren't where we ought to be. As I say, we aren't where we want to be. We aren't where we're going to be. We aren't where we should be, but thank God we aren't where we used to be. But it's the dreams that gives you excitement, and that's what I miss. So don't make the mistake. You're very successful. Just better keep building. And the last thing that's so critical, you have to build lifelong relationships with people. It's so important that we don't have a chance to meet the challenges we have if I don't have a life-lasting relationship with our players. And it doesn't have a thing to do with looks or intelligence. Most people don't like the way they look. I still get upset at the LA Times because at Disney one time they asked me to pose for a picture with Mickey Mouse and Donald, or with Pluto and Goofy. And they put one on each side, and I didn't say anything, pulled down my Notre Dame hat. And you can verify this. The Monday after Thanksgiving, that's a picture they published. The picture said, here's Lou Holtz, Notre Dame's Fighting Irish at Disneyland with Pluto and Goofy. And that didn't bother me. But the next sentence was in bold capital letters that jumped out at you. It said, Lou Holtz is a one in the middle. You know, you don't just think that's piling on a little bit. But to me, as I say to our players, and whether it be at Notre Dame or Arkansas or Minnesota or South Carolina, to build a lasting relationship between my wife and I, between the players or anybody in this world, I have 3 simple rules. And this is how we try to build a lasting relationship. Rule number 1 is do what's right. I say to the athletes, you do the right thing, I will do the right thing. That's so critical. The second rule is I expect you to do everything to the best of your ability, and I will do likewise. The third rule I expect is for you to treat everybody as you would like to be treated, and I will try to do the same thing. But gentlemen, understand this. As a leader of this organization, it's my obligation to set the standards. And I'm going to set high standards for you, and I don't want you to interpret that as I'm against you. But you should interpret the fact that I set high standards for you, that I genuinely care about you, and I believe in you. And those are the 3 rules, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the core values of our program. Now, core values is what holds an organization together. Core values is what holds a country together. If you don't have core values, it's, well, I don't do drugs, but if he wants to do drugs, anything goes. That's nonsense. See, ladies and gentlemen, we have to have the same core values on our team to have a lasting relationship, and those are the 3 rules. Why do those 3 rules build a lasting relationship? Because everybody in this world you meet, bar none, asks 3 questions. Question number 1, can I trust you? Question you ask about Miller. Question Miller asked about you. Question my wife asked about me. Everybody wants to know, can I trust you? The only way that you can get people to trust you if both sides do the right thing. It's right to be honest. It's right to say if you're going to do something, you do it. You do it or you go explain why it could not be done. But do the right thing because it's based on trust. The most difficult thing I have when I go into 6 losing situations, I've never inherited a winner, never failed to take any of those 6 schools to a bowl game by the 2nd year at the latest, but it's building trust. You don't have to like me, but we are going to do the right thing, and if we say we're going to do something, we're going to follow up on it. The second question everybody asks, every retailer, everybody that works for you, are you committed to excellence? Ladies and gentlemen, as soon as I leave here, I will fly back to Columbia. When I walk on that practice field this afternoon, I'll be better prepared than any of our coaches or any of our players. Because if I walk out on that practice field and I'm not totally prepared, they'll say, hey, Coach, you have a good time in New Orleans. Oh, I guess Miller's a little bit more important in our season, huh? That's why whenever I go into a meeting or anything else, I know I can get somebody else to do it, but everything I do, they're going to look at, and it better be a commitment to excellence with a passion to succeed. In Notre Dame once, we played Stanford, coached by Bill Walsh. We had a great football team. We're number 1 in the country. We're ahead 16-0. We get beat. Oh, devastated. You know, I couldn't sleep, and I came to the conclusion, you know why we lost? Because I let little things slide. I took it for granted. Most of them were back from last year when we were real good, and I let it slide. And I went to them, and I said, man, I'm going to raise that standard. The reason we lost was us too easy on you. We went out to practice, had an All-American left guard. Aaron Taylor's injured. In his place was 2nd-string left guard. And we had a real physical practice, and it didn't take very long to realize the left guard was just going through the motions. True story. And I stopped practice. I said to the left guard, what gives you the right to jeopardize your teammates' chance of success? They're playing their heart out, and your man's making every play. If you want to fail, that's fine. But you don't have the right to cause other people to fail. He couldn't give an answer. I said, go over and stand on the sideline. 3rd-string left guard jumped in his place. I said, no, we're going to play without a left guard. I hadn't planned it. I looked at him. I thought, what's the difference? We'll play without one. We broke out. We have the center, no left guard. And that's when I was proud of our defense. They recognized it. They're going, don't have a left guard. And I said, I know. They said, what do we do? I said, act like we have one. Rick Meyer takes the ball, gives the ball to Reggie Brooks. Oliver Gibson with Cincinnati Bengals now comes through the vacant left guard, hits Reggie Brooks as soon as he gets the ball. Whack. Moment of silence. Reggie started to mutter he couldn't see, and that scared me. But once we turned his helmet around, he was fine. And, you know, and I ran it 2 more plays. And each time the same thing happened, all of a sudden I had a revolt. And I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? We don't have left guard. I said, when did you notice? I said, 3 plays ago. I said, we haven't had one all day. I'm tired of impersonators. I'm tired of imposters. I'm tired of being phony. I said, last week we played with 8 players and 3 imposters. I'd rather have played with 8. Oh, we would have lost, but everybody would have known we only had 8. They said, gee, if we had 11 like him, nobody'd beat us. We never lost again for the next 17 straight games. The last 5 games that year, we played 5 nationally ranked teams. Our average margin of victory was 21 points. In the Cotton Bowl, we played Texas A&M 12-0, number 2 in the country. We beat them 28-3. The commitment to excellence. You talk about teamwork. I tell our players, the commitment to excellence, we need each other. I've seen all kinds of Hall of Fames. I've never seen a monument built to a team, but we need each other. And as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork must elevate. I don't need teamwork to go on 11, but I do need teamwork to win the SEC championship. And the greater the challenge, we must work together. Coaches, players, trainers, equipment men, strength men. We got to work together because that's a challenge. We cannot succeed without it. Point number 3, I can't have a weak link. You can't have a weak link in marketing. You can't have a weak link in sales. You can't have a weak link in relationship, any more in offense or defense. We have to continue to improve. And everybody's got to pay the price. I could go on and on, but teamwork's essential. But the third and last question everybody asks, do you care about me? That's what everybody wants to know. That's what the retailer wants to know. That's what you want to know. Hey, do you care about me? Do you care about the problems and the difficulties I got? Do you care what happens to me if you don't follow up on what you said? But the same question Miller's asking about you, the same questions I ask about athletes, they ask about me. Ladies and gentlemen, we have all kinds of successful people here. And I want to congratulate Norman, the great things I've heard about him and his passion. But I don't care whether you're talking about Norman, Lou Holtz, I don't care, Burgess. Everybody you're going to meet the rest of your life's got a problem, got difficult. Never going to meet anybody again that doesn't need a kind word, doesn't need a smile, doesn't need encouragement. Ladies and gentlemen, you're smarter than I am. If you can always figure out how to let those people know you genuinely care about it, you have no problems. And that's how we try to build a lasting relationship, is to do the right thing, do the best you can, and always show people you care. See, ladies and gentlemen, there ain't such thing as magic. I fool around with magic a little bit. It's like any other newspaper. You have front page for people who want to read the news. You have the comics for people who can't read. And you have the editorial page for people who can't think. But I want you to take 2 people, be anybody in this world, take somebody you admire and respect. Put these 3 questions on both people. Can you trust them, yes or no? Are they committed to excellence, yes or no? Do they care about you and the organization, yes or no? I guarantee you the person you admire and respect, you just said yes to all 3 questions. The person you got a problem with, you pinpointed the problem. Either you can't trust them, they aren't committed, or they don't care. Now, somebody said, how'd he do that? Perfectly, I thought, but in any event, that's not important. I wake up middle of the night screaming because I can't figure it out either. But just to recap, ladies and gentlemen, once again, attitude's a choice. It's absolutely critical to solve the challenges that are ahead. Point number 2 is a passion to win. Get rid of the excuses. Understand you have to make